Hello viewers, thank you for choosing Property Focus, your window into the world of architecture, building construction and real estate. If you don't have your own home, renting or buying a house can cost you an arm and a leg. Owing to this, everyone has a dream home of their choice and liking, but how much does it cost to build a house? Is probably the key question you'll have if this is your desire. It is important, however, that you're aware of the numerous aspects that help determine the cost of building a house in Kenya. In today's episode, let's discuss every single aspect in detail that will turn your dream home into a reality. We will know what it takes to build a house here in Nairobi and how to estimate the cost of building your house. To make you understand this a bit better, we have a developer, architect to make us familiar with the varying aspects of building, a quantity surveyor on cost, and clearly, you want nothing but the best, so an interior designer on finishes. Let's get comfortable and get into today's show. I'm your host, Peter Ngigi. Aside from other elements, it's the finishes that make a house even cost a bit more. And luckily, we've got Sheba, interior designer Sheba, to just tell us a little bit more about that. Welcome to Property Focus.
Thank you, Peter.
Wonderful.
Welcome to our recently finished project. My name is Sheba Gurel, and my company is called Obsidian Urban Design.
Okay.
We've been around for about 5 years, and so thank you for having us and having us explain what we do.
Wonderful. So tell us about an interior designer. What is the role of an interior designer?
So an interior designer is has a very important role in architecture and home building. We make sure that a space is safe, functional, and aesthetic for your client. There are many aspects to it, and it involves a lot of metrics. But at the end of the day, the space becomes something that you're happy in, safe in, and that you're happy to show off.
Okay. What are some of the services that an interior designer offers a client?
So it starts from the very beginning. If a client works with an interior designer from the beginning, then the designer can do some space planning, can do hard finishes, which means that they choose the colors of the tiles, the kitchen, the material used in the cupboards, all of those things, wardrobes. The interior designer proposes that, taking and keeping in mind who the client is, what the market is if it's a developer, and making it a wholesome project for whoever is doing it. Then there comes the soft finishes, which is what we are seeing here, the aesthetic part. The curtains, the drapery, your furniture, even laying out the table, the way it's laid out. Those are all the soft finishes. And sometimes a client only wants that part because they have a very strong idea of how they want to do the rest of the home. But then the soft finishes is where they get stuck, and then they call a designer in to come and help. Normally though, if you're just calling in somebody who's professional in that, they're called interior decorators, not interior designers.
So speaking of ideas, what are some of the trends that are in the market?
There are so many at the moment. The big ones for 2020 are unique rugs, two-toned kitchens, as you can see here, using sustainable materials because the environment needs to be looked after, bold colors, in introducing whether it's like just this one chair or it's an entire theme. And then patterns and bringing the naturals inside the home. So for example, you see a lot of wood and marble and wool and linens. Those kinds of natural materials are coming into the home. And this is because most people spend a lot of time at home, especially now with the coronavirus going on. They want to feel like they can be anywhere while being at home.
And is it costly involving an interior designer?
It depends on the professional, how long they've been in business, how experienced they are, at which point they're starting. But at the end of the day, those costs that go into the interior design fees pay out over the long run because they take in so many things into account, so many metrics, and they're all for the client's happiness.
Yes.
Yeah.
So at what stage should one engage an interior designer?
My advice would be from the very beginning.
Okay.
The architect and the interior designer working together usually ends up with a very good product.
What are some of the misconceptions that are in the market or with the profession today?
I think that the biggest misconception is equating an interior decorator to an interior designer. They're not the same. Yeah.
Any last words as we wrap up?
I think that Kenya is really taking account of interior design now. It's becoming so global. People here are becoming global. They're able to save money. They want their places to look good. And I feel like this is going to be a good time for interior designers.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, and thank you for coming on to Property Focus.
Thank you for having me.
Good. And that was interior designer Sheba. And you've only heard it on Property Focus, the difference between an interior designer and a decorator. Stay tuned. Nairobi is slowly opening up its economy as you can hear the clatter and chatter and horns of cars as many construction locomotives and trucks traverse the city. The cost of building a house in Kenya, however, depends on many factors, such as the size of the building, topography of the land, and the cost of materials. Let's hear from the architect/developer about the cost of building a house in Kenya. Let's go. Welcome to Property Focus, Architect Mugo.
Thank you very much.
And where are we right now?
You are at EDG Natilia.
Uh-huh.
We are a firm of architects and project managers
Okay.
who love doing what we do.
Okay.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
Yes.
So we're looking at constructing or building a house. What challenges are there when constructing or building a house?
Challenges is a good word because the reason why I tell people we manage projects is because there are always issues coming up. And those issues, the less you plan, the more they multiply. One of the biggest issues I've seen is when your budget doesn't meet what you want. So be it an office block, be it a residential block of apartments, be it a personal home, you find that your idea of the size of home is not translated to the budget you have. And if you don't have somebody to handhold you, a professional, who now matches what you have with what you want and gets that marriage working well throughout the process of construction, then that would be a challenge. And that's why you find, Peter, a lot of people have stalled projects. Companies start projects, they stall. Office blocks are stalled. People start homes, they are stalled. Or you find somebody moving into a little corner of the home because they didn't have the whole plan. They didn't have, they planned for the house, yes, they got the contractors, the architects, but they didn't plan for the money. They didn't plan properly the extent of the budget. I find that is the biggest challenge we have here, that correlation between what I want and the money I have in real estate, there's a challenge there.
How much would you say it costs to build a house in Nairobi? I know it's a bit relative, but what average, what would that be?
Well, the average calculated as per census and number of mortgages will probably work out to about what we've talked about earlier, about 7 million. But what kind of home is that? It really depends on your materials that you use. It depends so much on the construction methodology you adopt. Are you building it yourself with fundis? Are you getting a contractor? Are you doing a labor contract where it's half of both? We're buying some materials and the other materials, the labor is being brought in by a contractor. What methodology are you using to deliver that? And that, all of it pans out towards the budget. The materials is very, very, very key. The area of the house and the materials are extremely key. But I would hazard a guess that the average cost of an urban home will be anywhere between 5 and 10 million, an average cost. Obviously, size matters, materials matters, method of construction matters. Yes, yeah.
What 3 things would you advise anybody who's constructing a house to adhere to?
I think the first thing is have a team, have your architect who is a professional person. It doesn't really, All you want is somebody professional to guide you through the process. Some people say architects are expensive or professionals are expensive. But I kid you not, it is more expensive to not use a professional. An architect designs you a space which doesn't waste too much space. An engineer, structural engineer, make sure your building is standing properly. Yes. A few years ago, buildings were falling left, right, center. Yes. Why? You put up 50, 60 million on an apartment block, it comes tumbling down. Because you are trying to save the engineering fees, structural engineering fees, which now you've lost your whole investment. It is always cheaper to go with professionals. Make sure your professionals are registered, they're well registered, they have a good name. So if you're doing a home or you're doing an apartment block or whatever it is you're doing, make sure a QS is involved to guide you through that. Services engineer, we might think a technician can work on it, but depending on the size of the development you're doing, you would find that it is cheaper to go through services engineer, electrical and mechanical people, who now design for you systems that are robust enough to attract the kind of return you want. So I tell people, get your team right. And when your team is right, now you go to the finances. Make sure you have integrated yourselves with the team. It's a back and forth. They come and tell you, oh, Mr. X, this or Mrs. X, this will cost you so much. You say, hang on, I don't have that money, what can we change? You tweak something, change an area, change a material. If you're doing an apartment block, change a number of units, change the size of units, till you get to the number you want. The number either you have or you can go and access that money from a financial body. But that is very, 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 very keen. And make sure, lastly, which is so important, make sure the quality of builder you get. It doesn't matter the methodology you're using. You could be doing fundi direct, you could be doing labor contract, you could be doing full contract. The quality of eventual builder is key to getting that dream. In fact, you'd rather have a poorly designed, well-built home than have a very fantastic design built shoddily. It is dangerous and it doesn't give you value. So those are the three things I think I would, in a nutshell. This topic we can speak here for the next 4 hours and we still would not have exhausted. Yeah. But for the home builder out there, yes, those are the three things you need to look out for. Make sure your team is in place and your ideas come out well. Mm-hmm. Make sure your finances are in place. And make sure that your builders are people of repute. People won't run away. People won't cheat you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Mr. Mugo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Karibuni sana, karibuni sana, karibuni sana. Yeah.
Make sure your dream and your budget are in congruence and they're the same.
Yes. Your dream and your budget, yes, are incongruent with your execution. With execution on the ground. So that whatever you have, you and your family, you and your company, whatever you have in your mind matches your pocket, mm-hmm, and matches what is done on site. Yes.
Wonderful. Yes. That was Architect Mugo. Remember, engage a professional, make sure your finances are in order, and get a very qualified team. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Now, we're taking a short commercial break, but when we're back, how do you ensure what you've budgeted is actually what you pay for? We've got one successful QS, Sasha Mutai, to tell us about the cost element. Stay tuned. Now, the most important thing is engaging a qualified personnel when working on every aspect of your building. However, many people avoid professionals and construction firms in an effort to be prudent or cut down on costs, but they end up losing more money due to privilege and shoddy work. Speaking of costs, let's find out more from our quantity surveyor, Sasha Mutai on the same. And welcome to Property Focus, Sasha.
Thank you very much, Peter, for inviting me.
Wonderful. So tell us about yourself and what you do.
Well, my name is Sasha Mutai. I'm a quantity surveyor by profession. I'm also an arbitrator, and I've also held the post of Vice Chairman of the Architectural Association of Kenya a few years ago. And yes, so I'm in the built environment and practice under my firm, A&M Consultants, where I'm a director. Yeah.
So who is a quantity surveyor and what is the role of a QS?
Quantity surveyor, QS is in short. First of all, it's a profession found mostly in the Commonwealth. In the US, they don't have quantity surveyors, they have cost engineers. So a quantity surveyor is somebody trained, a professional trained in the built environment. He's trained in cutting in construction costs. We're supposed to manage costs. Well, basically what we do, we get drawings from architects, structural engineers, and the other engineers, MEP engineers. We measure the drawings, we cost whatever has been designed. We produce what I call bills of quantities that we send out to contractors for tender. We also draw up the contracts, so there's a lot of contract law. So we have to be quite adept in contract law. As I said as well, I'm an arbitrator, so I've actually done a course in arbitration. I'm a member of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. So a lot of QSs also go into arbitration because a lot of problems occur during a construction project. And quantity surveyors are best trained because of the experience in managing cost and contractual issues to be arbitrators. So it's a whole encompassing profession where you need to know a lot about architecture, about engineering, structural designs and all that. We learn that in university. We do something, a unit that many of us feared called theory of structures, which we do also with civil engineers. So we need to know quite a bit about everything, about law, about construction techniques, about mechanical, electrical, and civil engineering. Yeah.
So what did it take for you to become a QS?
Well, funny story is my older sister is a quantity surveyor, and she's also one of my directors, co-director in my company in A&M Consultants. So she's older than me, and she did quantity surveying as well. And she went to do a master's in project management. So I followed her, and I liked the profession. There's a neighbor of mine who inspired me. He was also a QS, so he was doing very well. And when I was in primary school, I wondered what he was doing. And he was a QS, and in fact, he was my first employer out after campus, and I worked for him. So I got some inspiration out there from my former boss, my first boss, and my sister. And yeah, and well, I love the profession. I got to University of Nairobi from 96 to 2000. You have to do pretty well. You have to be good in mathematics and physics. Those are the basics that you have to ace. And then we did technical drawing in my school in Strathmore, and yeah, so I went to ADD. And at that time, only one university was offering quantity survey. It's called Bachelor of Arts in Building Economics. Okay. That was University of Nairobi. Our class was only like 24 people. So it was small. We could only train 24 people in a year. Okay. But now there are more universities offering the course. Now it's Bachelor of Science in Quantity Surveying. There's JKUAT, there's Technical University of Kenya, and a few other universities, even in Uganda. But yeah, so it's expanded. Of course, the economy is growing, so there's more projects, construction projects coming up, and quantity surveyors are critical. So any big project, we're talking about houses here, but we should have a QS even for a house because it's your money. Now, if you're not in this construction business, the built environment business, and you really do not know about it, yes, there are sharks everywhere, as they say. If you don't know something, somebody will take advantage of you. So you need to have a quantity surveyor, even on a small project, to guide you through. Do not think that these people make so much money and no, people go to university to study this, and then after university you have to work 2-3 years, do exams again, get registered. Then you're competent, you've been given, you have the competence to run projects and take care of people's money. So you need a QS even for a house. Yeah. So you always need a QS. Big projects, banks will not give you money if you don't have a proper, well-known QS. Yeah. And of course, the bigger projects you do, the more professional indemnity you have to get. Because this is a risk we're also taking, because we're advising people about using their money, and we can be sued for wrong advice. So it's a profession, and as I say, profession, it's guided with principles, and the QS has to uphold the principle of integrity most of all, because we are taking care of our clients' money. You know where the hidden corners are. Contractors are businessmen, okay, and they're out. Their motive is a profit motive. So the QS has to check for the client. Check out for the client's best interests, yeah? And a QS has to be also fair to the contractor and not be punitive. So it's a win. He or she, now there are also very many ladies doing quantity surveying. Before there were not too many. There are more women also doing civil engineering and architecture now. So I think the built environment is now getting that gender balance, not like parliament, just in jest. Yeah.
Thank you very much, QS Sasha Mutai, for coming on board onto Property Focus.
Thank you very much, Peter.
Thank you for being with us from the start of the show. We never like to say goodbye, but as always, if you want to get an accurate cost of the house that you want to build or gain the latest updates and insights of the real estate market here in Kenya, you can seek advice on our Property Focus social media pages, and we'll have experts discuss these topics in our upcoming episodes. Reach out to us on Property Focus on Facebook and Property_Focus on Instagram. This has been most wonderful. I'm your host, Peter Ngigi.